اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله، يا إمام الرحمة، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله. اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين، يا علي بن أبي طالب، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله. اشفع لنا عند الله يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد، يا قرة عين الرسول، يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله. اشفعي لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي، أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله. اشفع لنا يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي، أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله. اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين، يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله. اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي، أيها الباكر يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها القادم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الحادي النكي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها يا وصي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. Ask for your hajat. يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم عمتي وأدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين. سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد اللهم صل على وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقنا منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Continuing with the Tafsir of Surah Ahzab, I recited for you ayat number 72. And remains only one more ayat, ayat number 73, inshallah. We hope to conclude it next week. In this ayat, an important ayah, as all of these ayat towards the end have been, Allah says, indeed we presented the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they refused to undertake it and were apprehensive of it. But man undertook it. Indeed, he is most unjust and ignorant. Interesting discussion towards the end of Surah Al-Ahzab, which of course, inshallah, I'll provide a summary at the conclusion of the surah so that we understand the different things that were discussed throughout this journey of ours. In the end, Allah wants man to realize that his real position in this world. What is his real position? Why has he been given so many favors? Why is he given superiority over other creations? What is the reason behind it? Allah wants insan to realize that. If in that position he regarded the life of the world as mere fun and sport and adopted the wrong attitude carelessly, he would only be working for his own doom. As other places in Quran, such as Surah Hadid, where it is mentioned that, lahawun wa la'ibun wa takathur, what all of those things that are mentioned, that insan considers this life, it's just mere child's play, and it's vain glory, and it's just rivalry, then of course he has not really understood the actual reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose him for this land and for this earth, and why he has been sent, and what is the main purpose behind it. We read in a hadith that whenever the time of salat would come, Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam would start to shake. His body would be shaking out of fear, and the face complexion would change, and he would say, it's the time of prayer, and prayer is that trust which mountains and the skies refrain from carrying, and insan is now carrying it. In Ziyarat Jami Kabira, we read that Ahlul Bayt, regarding Ahlul Bayt, Antum al-amanatul mahfudah, that you are that protected trust and the amanat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's a difference between when Allah says, we gave this amanat to the skies and the mountains and the other creations, and they refrained from carrying it, but insan carried it. So there are two words that are used in Arabic, haml and tahmil. Did not say tahmil, Allah said haml and yahmilnaha, meaning what? That there's a difference between the two. That insan accepted this amanat voluntarily. Yes, I want to carry it. So meaning he carries it. If it was tahmil, meaning what? Allah would have imposed it upon him. Allah did not impose. Insan had voluntarily said, yes, sure, I'll go ahead and carry this amanat of yours. Perhaps this verse expresses some facts about human beings that the human mind has not yet reached. We're continuously progressing. People that lived 50, 60, 100 years ago, their minds, from intellectual aspect may have reached its peak, or other, they were more intellectual maybe than us, but from exploration of the world and the discoveries and realizing their own creation and the intricacies of the creation of the earth, they were not as advanced as we are today. So that's where the difference regarding that lies. So similarly, this is regarding some of the facts that even humans have not been able to figure out about themselves. Every day you learn something new, what humans can or able to do. So but what we can understand from the appearance of the verse is that Allah has given human beings special characteristics and privileges, which He has not given to other creations. The camels or the animals altogether, the mountains, skies, the other creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they don't have those privileges, special characteristics that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to Hazrat-e Insan. You and I have certain special features that no other creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shares with us. We are exclusively recipient of those privileges by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't know if this example fits. When you're traveling by airplane, you're sitting in the first class and you're sitting in the economy class. Some of the privileges that are given to those who are sitting in the first class. Or if your ticket says business or first class, you're able to go into this lounge or that lounge. But if you don't have that, then you're not allowed to go into this lounge or that lounge. Once you're allowed to go into that lounge, you can use everything that is in there. That is, similarly, if you just mere example, similarly, that privilege, some have, some don't. The creation of insan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave those special features and privileges to insan that none of the other creatures in heaven and earth, they possess. And these privileges are a divine trust and a responsibility for humans. But many humans, they betray this trust and take advantage of it against Allah's will. So Allah has given this to it. Imagine, you and I also trust people all the time. We trust people either with wealth, we trust people either with information. So you share some information with someone and you say, well, don't share that with someone else. Now, there's this feeling that you feel inside you that there's this heavy weight on my shoulders. You're carrying someone's secret and now you're unable to keep it in your belly. Your shoulders feel that they're getting heavier and heavier. You need to share this information with someone else to lighten your weight. We always hear this, example. There's so much weight on the shoulders because he's carrying all these secrets. So you share these secrets with others. Now I feel much lighter. There's no physical, weight on your shoulders. It's just some information that you possess. And you should be able to keep that information. Have you ever heard someone tell you, oh, so-and-so is doing this, but I'm telling you only, I'm not telling anyone else. Keep this to yourself. Guess what? This person has said it to 100 other people, the same thing. Went to 100 different people, said, I'm telling only you, I'm telling only you, I'm telling only you, I'm telling only you, I'm not telling anyone else. Have told 100 other people. Forwarding messages the same way. You share and you talk about it, and then say, I'm telling you in complete trust. Don't share with anyone else. I haven't told anyone yet. Guess what? You've already told 10 other people. And you've said the same exact thing to those 10 other people. I haven't told anyone else. That's how sometimes we are. So some believe the word amanat, which is used in this ayat, trust, which means trust, implies to the khilafat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made insan or his khalifa in the shape and the form of insan. According to Quran, man has been granted in the earth this khilafat, the inevitable result of the freedom given to man to choose between obedience and disobedience. Imma shakiran aw imma kafura. Do we not have this ability to be either grateful to Allah or be ungrateful? Is anyone forcing you to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is anyone forcing you to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is anyone pointing a gun at your head saying, oh, you must obey Allah? Is anyone twisting your arm saying you must obey God? Or vice versa, is anyone forcing you not to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Do you not have a choice? Whether be grateful or ungrateful. This ayat, being grateful and ungrateful, is one of the biggest proofs of how Allah has given freedom to you and I to choose the right or the wrong path. No one's forcing you on the right path. No one's forcing you onto the wrong path. Well, shaitan maybe. But, lowering you into the wrong path. Similarly, there are Aimmatul Huda who are taking you towards the right path. But this is your individual choice at the end of the day. You have the freedom to choose path A or path B. Just like when you're driving. From here, you're going to New York. You look at, your GPS, it gives you 3 different paths. You can either take the Verrazano, you can take the Holland Tunnel, you can take George Washington. It's your choice. You want to pay $30 toll? Take Verrazano. You want to pay a lesser toll? Take, for example, the tunnel. You can't avoid the tolls. You have to pay even on George and everything. But nonetheless, you have this choice. Nobody's forcing you. You force it upon yourself. Oh, I'm going to take George Washington because there's lesser traffic over there. I'll be able to make this journey quickly. So that's your own prerogative. And the powers and the authority that Allah granted with this khilafat, with this, amanat that Allah gave you, there's certain power that you and I have. There's certain authority that you and I have. Now, some of us have limited power. Some of us have limited authority. But some of us have superior powers and superior authorities. Those who became, for example, the head of the states. When we vote them in, we give them power. They have the authority given by the people. So they are now, for example, head of the state. Head of a country, for example. Able to sign bills into law. They're able to change law, make laws. So that power, where did this power come from? So with that said, Allah has given this power and authority granted over countless creation for using that freedom, is that He Himself be held responsible for His voluntary acts and should deserve the rewards for His righteous conduct and suffer the punishment for His evil conduct. With this amanat that is given to you, you have the choice to choose whatever you want. And now when you have the choice to choose whatever path you want, if the path is good, you'll be rewarded. If the path is evil, you will be punished because you had the power to choose between the two. Since man has not attained these powers by his own effect. Even that person who is elected, you and I have given that person the power. Otherwise, that person didn't have this power. We gave him this power. Here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who's providing this power to us. This hasn't been reached by his own efforts, but has been granted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he's answerable before Allah for their right or wrong use. Similarly, when an elected official does not perform well, you hold him accountable. Similarly, when Allah has given this power to you and you don't utilize this power properly, you'll be held accountable. In order to give an idea on how important and heavy this amanat, this trust is, Allah says that the heavens and the earth, in spite of their glory and greatness, and the mountains, in spite of their size and firmness, could not have the power and the courage to bear it. Why is the example of heaven and the earth and the mountain is being given? That Allah tried to give them this amanat. They all said, no, we're not going to take it. Mountain is so huge, firm. Heaven and the earth, their size, their glory and their greatness. They said, no, we don't want this power. We don't want to take this. We cannot bear it. We don't have the courage. But man, insan, the weak and the frail, has borne this heavy burden onto his tiny self. He said, no, I'll take care of it. I'll carry this weight. What if the mountains are not carrying it? That's okay. Heavens are not carrying it. That's okay. Earth is not carrying it. That's okay. I'll carry this amanah. The presentation of the trust before the earth and the heavens and their refusal to bear it, their being afraid of it, may be literally true or maybe a metaphorical thing. For example, it is understandable that if Allah had asked us, are you willing to carry this amanat? That makes sense. Insan is able to understand. Can the mountains understand this? Can the heaven and the earth understand this? Can Allah go ahead and ask the heaven and the earth and they have the ability to respond? Is it literally or metaphorically? Either way is fine. It could be literally. There's a way possibly that Allah has a way and means of communicating with these inanimate objects, just like the heavens and the earth and the mountains. Or there's a way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking merely what? Metaphorically, that we knew that they will not be able to carry this. The earth and the sun and the moon and the mountains are dumb, deaf and lifeless for us. But they may not be so for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's possibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has means of communication with the sun and the moon and the mountain and all of these other things that are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe there's a way that Allah communicates with them. We don't know. So therefore it is possible that Allah in fact might have presented this heavy trust before them and that they might have shuddered to see it. They might have made this submission before their master and creator, which is Hazrat Insan said, yeah, sure. I'll take care of it. I'll carry this amanat when other creations are refusing to carry it. So sort of a picture is brought about. Imagine this, that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, equally possible that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may have metaphorically said this in order to give an idea of this extraordinary importance of this matter. He may have depicted the scene where the earth and the heaven and the mountain, like the Himalayas, were present in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on one side, and on the other side there was this 5 foot, 6 foot insan. So on one side you have the mountains, you have the heaven and the earth, and on the other side you have this 5 foot ka 10 foot ka insan standing on the left side or the right side. And Allah might have asked them, which one of you want to carry this amanat? Do you want to carry this amanat? Or do you want to carry this amanat? And of course, heavens and the earth and the mountains and the sun and the moon and all the other creations, they said, no, we're not going to carry this amanat. This is too heavy for us. This is too difficult for us. Here insan, being a careless being, said, I can take care of it. Hearing this discourse, a hush might have prevailed for a while all through the universe. Then one huge creation after another might have bowed down and submitted that it should be excused from this severe test. Then at last this frail creation might have risen and submitted. Oh my Lord, I'm ready to undergo this test. I shall brave all the dangers inherent in the freedom and independence only in the hope that I shall be blessed with the highest office in your kingdom if I pass this test. So there comes a price. that when insan accepted this test, what is it after? It's after that choices and the kingdom and the highest office that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, is about to offer him. So this ayat, in conclusion, when it says in the beginning of this ayat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we presented the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they refused to undertake it, and they were apprehensive of it, but man undertook it. Indeed, insan is zaluman jahula. Insan is the most unjust and the most ignorant. Not just zalim, not just jahil. There's a difference between zaliman and jahilan and zaluman and jahula. Inshallah, I'll talk about what's the difference between the two next week. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability that this amanat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we take care of it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this trust that Allah has in us, we're able to live up to this trust so that we are the recipient of the highest of the places that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised in lieu of this. Wa akhir da'wana and alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, assalamu alaikum ya Nabi Allah, assalamu alaikum ya Habib Allah, assalamu alaikum ya Akhiratullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, assalamu alaikum ya Abu Abdullah, assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, assalamu alaikum wa ala jaddika wa abika wa ala ummika wa akhika wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس وأنيس النفوس أيها المدفون بعرض توس علي بن مسرضة ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك صاحب العصر والزمان، السلام عليك إمام الإنس والجان، السلام عليك الشريك القرآن. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أعوانك وأنصارك ورحمة الله وبركاته.